Good morning. I'm Dr. Marguerite Evans-Galia, IMNIS Executive Director with the Australian Academy of Technology and Engineering. I'm also co-founder of Women in STEM Australia. It's a pleasure to welcome you online this Happy Science Week or Happy STEM Week. If you're not, specifically in science, you can still celebrate. I think it all relates. So as we gather for this event from different places around Australia, I'd like to acknowledge the traditional custodians of the lands on which we meet. I'm joining you today from Wurundjeri country here in Melbourne, and I pay respects to elders past and present, and to any Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people who may be joining us today. As we share and discuss our own knowledge and practices, we also acknowledge the deep knowledge forever embedded in custodianship of country. Today, it is my pleasure to bring you REDI Careers Beyond the Lab. And this webinar series aims to share with students and teachers the breadth of STEM careers available and where a STEM qualification can ultimately take you. And it can take you in different directions. And I know that myself as a research scientist who has transitioned beyond the lab. This event is an exciting collaboration between ATSI's STEM Career Pathways Initiatives, the Industry Mentoring Network in STEM, known as IMNIS, as well as the STELR program, which you'll hear about in a moment. IMNIS is our industry engagement initiative, which connects PhD students and early career researchers with influential industry leaders in a one-year mentoring program. Beyond the Lab is possible thanks to our major partner, MTP Connect, and it is part of their REDI initiative, the Researcher Exchange and Development in Industry program. It's rather a large name for a fantastic program that connects academic researchers to industry. It's a $32 million initiative made possible by the Medical Research Future Fund with the Australian government. Beyond the Lab is new, and we are keen to see it grow. And in the coming years, we would love to hear from you. And in the coming weeks, we'd love to hear from you what you're after from this type of program. So if you have ideas and suggestions along the way, please make a note and do share them with your teachers. And teachers are very welcome to send us notes too. We're keen to hear more from you. Now on to the fun part. To tell you a bit more about STELR and to lead the rest of the event, I would like to introduce my colleague, Camille Thompson. Camille has over 15 years experience as a teacher and also a savvy science communicator. And she is acting director of ATSI's STELR program. Thanks, Camille.
Thanks, Maggie. I'm joining you from Ngunnawal country. And so we're showing that we're a truly national program here. STELR is also run by the Academy of Technology and Engineering, and we are a hands-on inquiry-based school curriculum-linked program. So we have hands-on resources that teachers can access, as well as kits and lesson plans, and STEM careers, which now Catalyst is part of. So this Beyond the Lab series is, yes, very exciting, and it's a chance for us to show you what all of that science that you do at school can become in a career beyond school and beyond the lab. So now you know a little bit about both of our programs. I'd like you to introduce you to our three IMNIS Catalysts today. All three have been through the one-year IMNIS program and are currently ambassadors for this initiative. Joining us today is Dr. Samantha Papavasiliou, Kay Mayomin, and Olumide Opeyemi. Opeyemi. Oh my gosh, I'm terrible today. So how today will run is that each of our catalysts will give a short presentation on their career journeys and how they got to where they are now. Afterwards, we're going to have a short panel discussion between the three of them and then a bit of audience Q&A. So here's a chance for you to ask our panelists anything, all those burning questions that you want to ask. Just use the Q&A function at the bottom of the screen and ask as many questions as you want while they're speaking. If something comes up that's really relevant, I might jump in and ask it then, but we'll definitely try and get to as many as we can at the end. So to kick things off with her presentation, we have Sam. So Sam currently works with the Australian Tax Office, not very sciencey there, you think, but she's applying behavioural analytics and predictive modelling to help the organisation communicate with their users through digital channels. She also teaches project management, system design and research methods. So take it away, Sam.
Hi, everyone. I'm Dr. Samantha Papavasiliou, which still sounds very weird to say. I guess if you want to, Sarah, if you want to move to my first slide. So I'm showing you some very embarrassing photos of me when I was in high school. So I went to a regional high school in South Australia, and we didn't really have a lot of subject options. I loved my history classes and psychology, and I was really good at mathematics, but I didn't love it yet, which is really interesting because I moved into a career in data science and data analytics. I also did my Duke of Edinburgh Awards. My mom sort of encouraged me to start them to expand my horizons. And as part of that, I got to go to Admiralty House and meet a prince. And I also was able to travel to Europe for a month when I was 16. So I got to travel without my parents, which was very exciting. But high school didn't really prepare me for what I wanted to do when I grew up, when I finished high school. So I actually decided to move into a Bachelor of Psychological Science, majoring in statistics. If you want to move to the next slide, Sarah. So as you can see on the slide, I actually undertook a lot of different courses. This is a photo from each of my graduations. I undertook 2 undergrads, an honors, 2 masters, and then I did my PhD. And I was a little all over the place because I wasn't 100% sure where I wanted to be and what I wanted to do. And I really didn't find what I loved doing in digitalization until my final year of my master's program. I also I undertook a number of different research internships to understand where I really wanted to end up. So I did some in neurobiology to see if I wanted to work in that space. And I moved into statistics labs and worked in unemployment areas in South Australia. I also did some work on international trade in the South Australian Department of Economics, where we understood if there were impacts of the Chinese-Australia Free Trade Agreement. So I just sort of went all over the place. And then I found my love of digitalization and was offered a place in a PhD. At the same time, I was actually offered a full-time graduate job at the Australian Taxation Office as a data scientist. So I was really unsure where I wanted to be, and I actually undertook both full-time. I did my PhD and my graduate year concurrently, which is not something I recommend, but it was very interesting. And my PhD ended up being in digital transformation in public sector and how we can encourage holistic digital transformation and how we can support inclusive public service design using innovative new technologies, but also using some basic behavioral analysis theories. If you want to move to the next slide. So I ensured that during my time in my PhD, I traveled a lot. I went to conferences and universities around the world to understand where my research fit and what the opportunities were for the future. I joined the IMNIS program to sort of work out where I fit more broadly. I wanted some guidance in my penultimate year of my PhD to understand where I could go if I wanted to be in research or if I wanted to be in industry. So I ended up doing a bit of both worlds. I have a research arm, which I do with the university as part of my teaching role, but I also work in industry as well. I really break the scientific stereotype because I work in STEM and I'm technically a scientist, but my key area of focus is digitalization, technology, and innovation. So my current role and the current work that I'm doing as part of both my role as researcher and employee at the tax office is ensuring that we use data appropriately, and the way that we use data is to streamline decision making more broadly, but also how we can improve digital transformation processes for the public sector to create those services that are inclusive for all members of the population. I'm also supporting some work in the health space, so understanding how we can provide better digital health services for those who need them during and post pandemic, and also in the education space. So that's a little about me and my embarrassing photos.
That's great, Sam. It's great that you're not afraid to say you didn't know what you wanted to do, which is always a good thing. So yeah, I'm really excited to kind of chat with you a little bit more about that. So we're now going to move on to Kay. And Kay's current work looks at the signals in molecules that make pancreatic cancers grow and spread. She's especially interested in blood vessel development. So thanks, Kay.
Thanks, Camille. Yeah, I'm happy to move to the next slide. Hi, everyone. Yeah, thanks for being here early in the morning. So I did my high school. I guess I'll start with my journey through high school. So I did my high school not in Australia. So I was in the Cook Islands, which has the New Zealand high school curriculum, which I think is pretty similar to Australia anyway. So when I was in high school, like Sam said, I don't think I really knew what I wanted to do, because it's really difficult for, a 16-year-old to choose, for me anyway, to choose what I wanted to do for the rest of my life. So I tried a lot of different things with the help of my parents and the teachers who helped me choose a couple of topics. So I did English, calculus, biology, chemistry, and physics, because I was personally interested in English literature, history, and art. And it was really, I just put that picture of a roller coaster, because it was, high school was, a whirlwind, and I wasn't really sure which subjects that I, was really passionate about. So I guess and I just wanted to highlight that even if you're not big into STEM right now, it's not really, it's never too late to pick it up, because I think I just highlighted English on there because that was my favorite subject when I was in school, because I love to read. But now I've sort of changed, people grow and you adapt. So I've sort of changed with my interests, because now I'm interested in discovery and figuring out how things work. For example, for me personally, how the molecular mechanisms in a cell work, because of my, I guess, scientific curiosity as well. So, and being interested in English is really helpful for my career, I guess, because we have to do a lot of scientific writing and stuff like that. So coincidentally, all of my interests in high school sort of helped me set me up for the career that I've got now. So I guess we'll talk a little bit about what I'm doing now. So if you could move me to the next slide. So as Camille said, I'm doing a PhD on pancreatic cancer biology to identify new therapies. So I just wanted to, I guess, put up a little slide on what it's like to do a PhD, because I don't think I even really knew what it was like when I started. So it really depends based on your field of research, and it's not just, it's not just boring academic stuff. You don't just sort of sit in a lab doing work, or sit at your computer writing stuff. It's all lots of different things. So I am based in the laboratory. So the first panel is just me, where I spend most of my time doing experiments. And then the second panel, it's I think one of the things I love the most is that I get to do really exciting experiments. And the really good thing about doing research is that you get the opportunity to discover something new for the very first time in the world. No one's ever discovered it before. And I think that's what really excites me about the kind of work that I do. And you get to play with a lot of cool instruments and stuff like that, which I love to do. And then there's a picture of me with a penguin. As part of my PhD training, I got to visit the Australian Antarctic Division in Tasmania. So there's a lot of travel involved, which obviously is not happening right now, but that was one of the highlights of my PhD, where I got to go to Hobart in Tasmania and learn about a lot of the different really exciting climate research that's happening in Australia. The next panel is just me at a conference, before, obviously before the pandemic, I was traveling all the time, and being able to present your research at conferences and meet new people and collaborators is really, is one of the really exciting things about, working in research as well. I get the opportunity to work with clinical research doctors. So, we work with people who work in hospitals, we work with people who are in industry, we collaborate with a lot of international researchers. So it's all, it's a really broad and I guess ever-changing landscape when you're doing research. I guess then I'll finish off by my timeline of what I've been doing. If you can move me to the next slide. So that's just like a short career path, I guess, and what I've been doing with my life since I finished high school. So I finished high school in 2009. I wasn't 18 yet, so I actually took a gap year after high school, and that's like totally okay to do if you're still wanting to, I guess, discover what your interests are. And I think that really helped me, I guess, grow and mature as a person as well. So 2010, I worked in high school actually as a teacher's aide, helping with the special learning center that we had at our high school. And then after that, I decided, I think I am interested in doing a little bit of biology. So I decided to come to Australia and do my to do my undergraduate degree. So I did a diploma in health science, which I transferred into a Bachelor of Medical Science with honors. So those were my undergraduate years. And I think that was the point where I really started to hone in on my interests. So, I got into the degree, and then I was given a whole lot of opportunities while I was doing my undergrad that really helped me get to where I am now. So I took up a lot of research scholarships, summer vacation research scholarships and placements when I was an undergrad. And that really helped me decide that, I actually like doing this, because I didn't really know what it was like. And I guess that's what I wanted to highlight, is that when you're given opportunities to try new things that you don't really know about, I really recommend going for that, because if I didn't apply for those things, if I didn't, sacrifice one of my summers to try research, I don't think I would have gotten to where I am now. So that's one of the things I really wanted to highlight today. And when I finished my honors, I worked for 2 years as a research assistant in the lab, just to gain more skills. And I think you can sort of see that I take a lot of breaks to try to figure myself out. So after my honors, I worked as a research assistant and still in research. And then I decided, okay, maybe I want to do a PhD, because I wanted to, I wanted to have access to a larger set of careers and opportunities. So I started my PhD in 2018. And I'm currently still doing that. I'm just about to finish. So, and then I guess 2021, 2020 onwards, I'll be looking for postdoctoral employment in either academia or industry. I haven't really figured that part out yet, but we'll see what happens after I finish my PhD. Thanks. I think that's what I had to say today.
Thanks, Kay. And it's good, it's paths are never straight. They're always a bit curvy like that. So it's always good to know. So our last speaker, but definitely not the least one, is Ollie. And Ollie currently explores the use of non-invasive MRI scans and computer fluid models to diagnose, why am I having problems today? Heart conditions that are hard to detect by other methods. So over to you, Ollie. Hopefully you're less tongue-tied than I am.
Hello, good morning, everyone. It's a pleasure meeting every single one of you. As you can see, my name is not pronounceable. That's because my name is a song. It's a West African song, and so it's sung Olumide, Opeyemi. But everybody calls me Ollie because it's easier that way, and feel free to do so as well. So I'm a biophysicist, and what biophysicists do, well, for us, biophysics means that on the quantum level, biology and physics, there is no difference, for me anyway. So I took my time studying every single one of them. So as was said previously, in the background of my picture, you can see a clue as to what I'm working on at the moment. So I work at the Princess Alexandra Hospital next to the Translational Research Institute here. And I must say, that's one of the beautiful things about Australia, because right next to a hospital, you always have a research center, such that the research goes from bench to bedside. Or in my case, our research scanner is actually inside the hospital, so we can actually help the patients using our research directly. Next slide, please. So how did I get here? I grew up in a very small town in Nigeria called Akure. My journey here, you can call me a citizen of the world if you wish. That's what we usually call me, because getting here has involved travel through 3 other continents to get me here. But also to get here, I've had to do a lot of studying, because from a very young age, I had an insatiable thirst for knowledge, which my parents, God bless them, they fed as much as they could. So these are the subjects that I took starting from a very young age. From the age of 10, one of my cousins had a PhD, and I thought, I'm going to get a PhD, but not in his field. But these were the subjects that I studied growing up. And note the one that says additional mathematics, there actually is a subject called additional mathematics growing up, which is where I studied pure maths, applied mathematics, and statistics. And my friends thought I was crazy because they thought mathematics was enough. Why would you want to do an extra additional mathematics? But I went along with it and I had fun. It was lovely. And at the age of 15, I moved from Nigeria with my dad and mum to Britain. So I landed in Windsor in Berkshire, where Her Majesty lives. And that exposed me to Legoland Windsor. And I worked in Legoland Windsor for a bit. That's where I started teaching Lego robotics to the kids at Legoland Windsor. And so I began to become an expert, an IT expert there, and computing and programming in there. Next slide, please. And so moving from there, all of that sort of led me to a degree in aerospace engineering. After my degree in aerospace engineering, I wanted to study even further because I wanted to know more and to do more with being a rocket scientist. And so I studied biomechanics. And when I studied biomechanics, I wanted to apply the both to each other, which speaks of the applied mathematics. So you learn maths and you apply it to something else. And so this is what I'm working on now. I use the MRI that you saw earlier on to look inside people. So I use the MRI with magnetic field and radio waves to look inside people. And best way to illustrate this is an elastic band. And I use the MRI to study the elasticity of the aorta that you see in there. And the areas of interest are the circles that you see in there. So I look at those areas, and let's say this elastic band represents each and every one of those circles. I look at how elastic they are. So as your heart is clapping inside your chest, I want to see how those things respond, because the more elastic it is, the more healthier the heart is. And that's what I'm working on at the moment. How did I get here? I cannot take credit for it. I can only give all the credits to the excellent teachers that I had. I had Nigerian teachers and Ghanaian teachers and Sierra Leonean teachers, and they packaged me very nicely and handed me over to British teachers who packaged me over nicely and handed me over to American teachers, where I did my master's degree. It was a triple concentration, and they packaged me very nicely and handed me back to European teachers, where I did work for a telecoms company, and then they packaged me very nicely and handed me over to Australia, which got me to where I am now, where I'm doing this research. And what I want to say there is that even though I'm a citizen of the world and my journey seems rather far and wide, there is a method to it. And the method is mentoring. My mentors handed me over from one person to another, from one person to another. And so there is a chain that you can go all the way back. And so being here in Australia, I also got into the IMNIS program. They accorded me the opportunity of receiving a mentor. And guess what? My mentor, rather than being an engineer, is a pain researcher. And the wonderful thing about having Professor Smith as my mentor is that she was able to open my eyes to what was an industry, because I'd always been an academic and I love teaching. I'm a teacher at heart. That's my leadership style. So she opened my eyes to industry and how I can actually take my technology and move it into industry and commercialize it. And that's what I'm working on at the moment. Thanks to her, I won a double fellowship with a cash prize so I can carry on with the research. Next slide, please. So as you can see, my career path has taken me to all of these countries. So I've been everywhere. I'd like to be even more places so I can do more with what I'm doing here. But as I said again, each and every one of these places, what connects them is a mentor. So I implore you, if you don't have a mentor, search for a mentor. They're everywhere around you. Be bold, approach them, approach me if you wish, and have a chat with me. I'll be more than happy to not only answer your questions, but because I care so much, I would like you to have the things that I don't have. Please feel free. That's what mentors do. Next slide, please. So the important thing while you are doing these things is to make sure you have hobbies. Hobbies are very, very important. It's the things that you do away from the laboratory. But also, it's important that your hobbies also help you live out what you're doing in the lab as well. So while I was in the US, I was a tennis coach and I love playing tennis. So tennis is one of my hobbies. So while I'm here, I play tennis. And believe it or not, the research I do also applies to tennis. So the elasticity of the strings on a tennis racket, whenever I play a volley or do a backhand, it reminds me of those little elastic bands that I showed you earlier on. And I get insight from that. That's what makes a good scientist. Also, baking. I love to bake. You might think it's not science, but science is entirely baking. I love to bake, and look at that bread over there. That looks really good. That's making me hungry, actually. My word, I should have some bread later on. But bread, cookies, muffins, whatever it is, I love to bake. And it helps me also think about temperature and how it affects chocolate, how chocolate melts in your hand, how chocolate melts inside the oven, heat distribution inside the oven, infrared rays and things like that. All of those things, they all come together for me. And last but not the least, I'm a singer. So those are my friends from London at Hill City Mass Choir. I started singing since 2004, but as I went to each and every one of those countries that you saw earlier on, I participated in choir in there as well. So I sing everything from gospel to classical to jazz to everything. And it gives me a very wide range. So just as my range of travel is wide, my vocal range is wide. So I can go la 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 to la. So that's how my hobbies really fit into what I do for a living. So I encourage you, have wonderful hobbies, live the best you can, and make sure that you search and seek for mentors and remain connected to them. thank you very much. I believe that's all I have.
Thanks so much, Ollie. That was wonderful. And it was great hearing from all of our speakers today. I'm really happy to have heard so much more about all of your work. So now we're going to move into a panel discussion, but just a reminder to not be shy. If you have any questions, please use the Q&A function at the bottom of the webinar. Put the questions in. We're happy to answer anything. I'm going to volunteer our speakers to answer any question that comes up. But we've got a few panel questions to get the discussion started. So I might start with you, Ollie, because you're our last speaker, but what advice would you give your high school self? Oh, let's get it up.
The advice would be find mentors, find role models. Role models have a way of helping you find the path very quickly, rather than having to troubleshoot and find trial and error and things like that. They really help you remove as much pain as possible from the process.
And Sam, did you have something? No. I think be kind to yourself. High school's hard. You learn a lot in a really short period of time. And it's okay to be overwhelmed by how much you learned and to not know what you want to do or where you want to be. And it's just, that's fine.
That's great. And Kay?
Yeah, I must echo what Sam said, because that was me in high school. And I just want to say, science is always there. Like Ollie said, it's in everything that we do. So if you ever want to, if you're not sure right now if that's for you, I just recommend try it out. I did lots of internships and different placement opportunities. Just trying things will really let you know whether or not that's something for you. And yeah, it's never really too late to pick it up. It's always there. So and I think it's a worthwhile thing.
Sure. What else would you have done, Kay, if you aren't doing what you're doing?
In terms of my career?
Yeah, if there's something else you kind of got offered along the way but chose not to take.
I guess I've kind of been ever since I started my I guess my undergrad degree in medical science, I've kind of been single-minded ever since, I don't know, since I started my honors about what of my interest in research. But I must say the one part that I didn't take was that I seriously considered and started setting myself up for is to become a clinical doctor.
Oh.
I started, I was going to do a postgraduate degree in, to become a medical doctor. So when I finished my undergrad, I had this, kind of fork in the path where I was like, am I going to do a PhD, become an academic doctor, or am I going to become a clinical doctor? I guess that was the one path that I didn't take because I decided that I wanted to work in discovery.
Fantastic. And Ollie, did you have something you might have done if you weren't doing this? You did a lot of steps.
Yes, quite a few things, everything from architecture. My mother was an ophthalmologist. She prayed me out of being a medical doctor, so that's out. But my father was a clergyman, and I would have been clergy. In fact, his friends still call me by that appellation, but I certainly didn't want to do that. I wanted to be a scientist. But yeah, those are the two things or three things that I could have been besides this.
I'm glad you chose this. Seems to be your niche. Sam, you had a lot of things you tried to decide. Was there one that almost took you away from it?
I was going to be a chef, and then I realized that I'm not a late night person. I am like a grandma, and bed is the greatest place on earth. I also was going to be a translator. English is my second language. I speak Greek fluently with my family, so I was going to be a translator. And if my dad had his way, I would have been a chef and a translator. And I also was considering becoming a psychologist, but I just realized that it wasn't for me very quickly. But yeah.
So what's the best thing about what you do now then?
Oh, the variability. I can one day be looking at, you know, a digital service in Australia, but then I could be looking at how we improve innovation and culture in Turkey tomorrow. I think that we have the role in, you know, STEM. We can go anywhere and do anything, and my dogs are now decided now's the time to walk around in the background. But yeah, so I think the variability and the options and the opportunities to do many different things and move with innovation and create innovation ourselves is why I like it.
That's great. Kay, do you have something that you really love about what you do?
I think two things currently that I love about what I'm doing. Like, firstly, and I alluded to this earlier, I really enjoy discovering new things. It's you know, what I do, I get, you know, from my PhD anyway. I have this opportunity to add this, you know, no matter how small, I've been given this opportunity to add, you know, how this particular pathway in the cell work and that no one's really ever looked at before, and to be able to add that to the knowledge that's out there in the world, that's you know, huge to me. And also, I guess the second thing is that by doing that, you know, I've been able to contribute to the betterment of the lives of, you know, people who are impacted by pancreatic cancer, you know, so that we can work on, so that, you know, all the scientists around the world can use information that everybody else has discovered, that together, and, you know, work towards better therapies, better patient management and stuff like that. So, you know, on one hand, I get to discover something new. On the other hand, you know, with all the basic research that everybody else does around the world, when you put it together, you know, we can work towards, you know, a better, you know, quality of life for everyone.
It's a great thing about science, that collaboration internationally. It's not just you, it's you and a lot of people.
Oh yeah, you know, you can't achieve this, you can't achieve it yourself. So, you know, everybody working together, and then, you know, yeah.
That's great. Ollie, did you have a favorite thing? I did love your elastic band analogy, I have to say. I was totally there.
Thanks ever so much. What I love about it is meeting people, helping people, and loving people, just like a clergyman would, through through three things: teaching, research, and writing.
Fantastic. Oh, I love it. I did have a question, and I'm not sure who's going to be able to answer this. You might all want to jump in at some point, but did you choose your PhD, or were you assigned a subject? I'm never really sure how that works.
I chose my subject. I put forward the idea for what I wanted to do, and yeah, I chose it.
Yeah, same.
Yeah. Same here too.
Fantastic. That's Sam's dog, by the way, just in case.
Yeah, she's driving me insane. I'm sorry, I'm going to pick her up.
There you go. We've got a new star of the show. So I guess I'll go around and I'll start with, maybe I'll start with Sam, but what was the best advice your IMNIS mentor gave you?
He gave me lots of advice. When I started IMNIS, I was going through a really tough time at work. And he said to just, you know, be confident to say no, and when it is the right time to move on, or to look for new opportunities. He really wanted me to be more confident in myself. So his advice was, it's okay to say no to things, and it's okay to make the wrong decision now, as long as you make a decision.
That's great.
Which was interesting.
Kay, did you have a piece of advice your mentor gave you?
So my mentor, I guess I relate to her a lot because she did her PhD in the lab, and she actually did go into academic research, and but then she sort of transitioned out of academia and went into industry. And I guess the really useful, one of the most useful pieces of advice she gave me was to not count anything out until you give it a go. You know, you can have this illusion of what something is going to be, and often, you know, it's not really what you think it is. So, you know, she advised me to, you know, after I finish my PhD, give academia a go. You know, maybe that's my calling. And if that's not it, you can always, you know, move into industry as well afterwards. So it doesn't, you know, you don't have to close doors and burn bridges for yourself. You know, just always be willing to try new things. Yeah.
Ollie said he's had plenty of mentors, but definitely the best advice you've got from your IMNIS mentor, or any of them really, along the way.
Okay. My IMNIS mentor, Emeritus Professor Marie Smith. If you meet her in a room of 100 people, she'll be the most calm person in there. And so I quote her verbatim when I say, best piece of advice, be patient to be patient, which is something you need if you're pushing the frontiers of science. Not everything will come to you directly all the time. Just remain patient. It will come to you in time.
It's really good advice. It's difficult, particularly for high school kids, when, you know, you don't know what's around the corner and you're being pressured to pick something and you know, this is going to be your career forever. It's not that way. We did have one question in the Q&A for Ollie, which was working in Legoland the best job on the planet?
Oh, most definitely. Most definitely. Working, because Lego has three wings in robotics. There's the Lego Technic, Lego Dacta, and Lego Mindstorms. So Lego Technic is racing cars and building them and things like that, with a bit of programming in there. Lego Dacta has to do with schools. So we would have school groups come in and I'd teach classes. It was like teaching a computer science class to children. And the third one, Lego Mindstorms, is the same, except that's where you actually have programmable robotic bricks. And they still do that till today. It was wonderful. I got to play with Lego all the time. And I could travel to toy stores all over the southwest of the UK and set up, you know, little Lego booths and things like that during Christmas and Easter season and all the other seasons. It was wonderful. I absolutely loved it. Yes.
That's great. I did have one question for Kay on that. Did you enjoy your time? I know the teacher's aid time you did a long time ago. Did you enjoy that time kind of working with high school kids and just after you'd finished yourself?
Yeah. That was actually one of the most rewarding like jobs I've ever had, actually. And I think it helped me grow. And I think because of that, working as a teacher's aide, I haven't really closed the door on whether or not I want to become a lecturer as well, because I enjoyed that. And yeah, that was another thing I've done during my PhD as well, to do teaching at the university, bit of lecturing and tutoring and demonstrating and stuff like that. So yeah, no, it was really good, and I'm glad I just sort of stumbled upon it like I do most things in life. Yeah, no, it was really enjoyable. Yeah.
I think most of us stumble upon the stuff.
Yeah, I think, you know, just make the most of the opportunities that life give you, you know. I think that's what I would say.
Sure. So I'm going to do the last question because this is my question and I love it. We heard a little bit about Ollie's hobbies and things that he does, but what do you do when you're not doing science? What's your favorite thing to do when you're not doing science? Ollie, feel free to jump in. We got one. Oh, they're scared.
I'll go. You go.
Well, we know that's the girls.
Well, I got this, guys. So I have 3 dogs. When I'm not doing when I'm not working, these rule my life. As you can tell, they also rule my life when I'm working. I also love traveling, and COVID has definitely put a spanner in that, but I can't wait for that to happen again. And cooking. My dad is a chef, so we do lots of cooking, and that's sort of hanging out with my family and eating. So yeah.
And lots of both of those in the last year.
A lot.
So in terms of what I like to do in my free time, I sort of mentioned a little bit on my first slide that I was interested in art and English literature and stuff like that. So I do a lot of reading, probably too much reading, you know, and I like to do a little bit of creative writing when I have the time, but and I also like to do a lot of painting. So I just do some like watercolors and acrylic painting at home, and I do pottery as well. So I work like ceramics and wheel throwing and stuff. So I have a lot of interest in arts, and I guess that's like my outlet. You know, Ollie said, you know, it's important to have good hobbies that sort of, and you know, I wouldn't count out hobbies because they complete you as a person, and you know, that's when I put my creative outlet, you know, and you know, I use my analytical and logical brain a lot at work, so I need, and all of my spare time I use the creative side of my brain. So you know, you really, if you can and if you want to, you can have a bit of everything.
That's just great. Ollie, which one of your hobbies is your favorite? Come on, go pick one.
Oh, my favorite is hands down singing. That's my favorite, followed by tennis, followed by baking. At the moment, I've joined, or since I arrived in Australia, I joined Queensland Choir, whose 150th anniversary next year, and Brisbane Chorale. So we are working on Mahler's Second Symphony. We were supposed to do that last weekend, but the lockdown has postponed that to sometime next month. And then that's with Queensland Youth Symphony Orchestra. And then with Queensland Symphony Orchestra, we are doing Beethoven's Ninth, the choral symphony. And that's going to be sometime in the next month, which has been postponed as well. And at the end of the year, we are doing Handel's Messiah in its entirety at City Hall and QPAC respectively. So if you are in Brisbane, once the doors open, yeah, let me know and come and see us. You will not be disappointed.
Definitely think we won't be. So I'm going to wrap things up right there. We have come to the end of our lovely time today having a chat about all of your careers, and I've really enjoyed learning a lot more about you and about how you got to where you are. So I would like to have a big thank you first for our IMNIS Catalysts who have come along to our first IMNIS and STELR event, REDI Careers Beyond the Lab. I'd also like to acknowledge all of the partners and supporters of IMNIS, STELR and ATSI. And also a huge thank you again to Dr. Samantha Papavasiliou, Kay Mio-Min, and Olumide Opeyemi. I should just sing that really. We really value your insights and hope that everyone who's joined us online has learnt a range of different STEM careers and a lot about being a scientist beyond the lab. So thank you very much.